update. No, it doesn't have anything to do with Ricky Waters, who once said that as a running back for the Eagles, who alligator armed the ball over the middle of the field.
For who, for what?
Exactly.
Classic.
And I believe a man who was there for the for who, for what moment is the great John McMullen. Every time I go onto my Twitter stream, I see this man being elevated to positions never before seen by any football media member. Go back to Adam Schefter back in the day in Denver. I mean, it took him a while to get to the top of the mountain.
Did he get more jobs since we talked
Every
to him
time
last?
I look, he's got new titles, he's got new shows, he's got new podcasts. This guy, I've been trying to tell all these naysayers on the Twitch stream that this guy's an up-and-comer.
This might be the John McMullen Network.
Exactly right. John, congratulations, man. We're not worthy. Now we can't even get John to come on. We have to make an appointment to get him on.
He's got people.
He's got people that say, hey, no, he's not available to 4:20. You better make sure you look and check his schedule a couple days in advance now. You're not calling him last minute and getting him on the show. John, how are you, buddy?
For you guys. For who, for what? This was the Tony Bruno show with Harry Nave. That's how you do it.
Now, were you around? You were obviously covering the league. Were you in town for that?
I wasn't in town, but yeah, I mean, everybody remembers the Ricky Waters play, and it's a great quote. I love that quote. It's one of my all-time favorites.
I think the latest guy who took after him is Snellbrod down there in Tampa. For who, for what, right? Blake Snell says for who, for what.
Not for $3.5 million.
Exactly.
My favorite NFL quote of all time was from John McKay, the old Buccaneers coach.
Oh, yeah. He had a bunch of them, too.
Yeah.
What do you think of your team's execution?
Team's execution,
yeah.
I'm all for it, that one.
No,
but
John McKay.
I think Ricky Waters is top 10 with that. I really do.
Oh, no doubt, because he wasn't known for that. Remember, he was a great player, by the way. He wasn't
a great player.
He wasn't some schlub that they just picked up off the scrap heap and threw him out there. This guy was great with the 49ers, and this guy was pretty good here too, except on that one ball where he wouldn't go over the middle. And of course, the term alligator arms was way before that, but it really became part of the vernacular here in the Philadelphia sports scene for many, many years. All right,
well,
now, John,
they're passionate people, and he was trying to make a point, and it's like I'm not going to get blown up to try to do this on one particular play, but obviously that gets lost in translation.
Exactly. Unlike Aguilar, replace that later on too. But let's get it away from there. I mentioned Tom Brady. I'm sure you saw the story. He was out in Tampa with his pads on, his shoulder pads, the helmet, an orange jersey, and he had 8 of his players. And Harry was asking the question, and you know the inside rules of the NFL. Is he going to get in trouble for that? Is that going to be considered an organized team activity? And those, by the way, are those verboten right now?
Well, they're verboten from a team perspective. But no, the NFL actually already released a statement because everybody was contacting them about Tom. Tom, by the way, is quite a rebel. Now that he's gotten down to Tampa. Mm-hmm. He was already kicked out of the park. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, he's a Pirate. He's a Buccaneer now.
Exactly.
You got to. He's no longer a Patriot. He's gone from Patriot to Buccaneer.
Yeah.
You got to start breaking rules.
You got to start plundering.
Right.
And what do they yell in the Pirates of the Caribbean? Yo ho, a pirate's life for me. We're doing them plundering.
It's about hose and rum now for him, right?
A lot of hose and rum in the Tampa Bay area.
Pillage and plunder.
They pillage. He's pillaging and plundering all over the Tampa Bay area.
Pillaging and plundering. And as long as, from the league's perspective, as long as you pillage and plunder 6 feet apart, you're fine. Which is absurd, but guys are working out together. And the NFL's got to put out these politically correct statements. As long as they're 6 feet apart, there's nothing wrong with it. So there you have it.
Now, speaking of ridiculous statements, who saw this one coming? The NFL on the Friday news dump released the proposal to help teams get better draft selection and pick selection if they would hire more minority representation as coaches or front office people, and even the most understanding person said, what? And so today they walked that back and they're going to shelve that, John. And again, I agree with the philosophy that, there needs to be more minority representation, but you can't legislate it in and think that it's going to be cool, can you?
No, they tabled it. And I think part of the NFL's really bad, and I talk about this all the time. They've been consistently bad with unintended consequences. They don't think things out. And when they floated this idea through Jim Trotter, now works for NFL Media, some of the people coming out against it were guys like Anthony Lynn and Louis Riddick and saying, this is insulting if you think about it from a candidate's perspective. And you're essentially saying, well, might not want to hire this guy, but would you hire him if we moved you up 6 spots in the 3rd round? So, I mean, that's insulting on a number of levels. And by the way, if you talk about that from an organizational perspective, good organizations, that's not going to affect them because they understand how important that decision is. And you want a head coach or if you're moving up 10 spots for a general manager, you want those guys to be in position for 15, 20 years if you do it right. And when you measure that against moving up 6 spots or 10 spots, it doesn't measure up, pun intended. So then you talk about it from that perspective, it doesn't make sense. So who would do it? Bad organization. And they'll go, oh, hey, let's move up 6 spots and take this guy. And what that says is that particular candidate is probably going into a situation where they're going to make bad decisions. So they're more unlikely to succeed. So I think it didn't make sense from so many levels. It got tabled. But the good part is they're not going to block lower-level assistants who are under contract. If they get a coordinator interview or something of that nature, they can now take that interview. I think that's really positive.
That's a good thing to me because especially, like certain teams will just say, no, you're not going to be able to interview. You're really, keeping that coach, that person from advancing their career.
Yeah. And it happened all the time. It happened with non-minority coaches, minority coaches. If you were under contract, that was considered a lateral move, and it obviously wasn't. It was a promotion. You weren't allowed to go in that direction. And, oh, by the way, executives as well. If you're a scout, for instance, and you get an interview for an assistant GM, you couldn't do that before. You can now do that and take that interview and potentially move forward in your career. And I think, it's not the sexiest solution, and that's what people want. They want immediacy. But long-term, that's the best way because how you fix this problem is get more people in the pipeline, get more minorities in the pipeline. And once you get that experience, people become more comfortable and you're more likely to be hired. It's not going to make everyone happy, but I do think it's a positive development.
NFL insider and the man pretty much who dominates all NFL media right now, John McMullen. Now, Aaron Rodgers, before we get to the Doug Peterson little get-together today, Aaron Rodgers saying some things that now people are upset and mad about. And he says, not being allowed, he's not allowed to practice with the Packer players, not as an organized team activity. He can't even go out there and work out with the guys. But he says, it feels like house arrest. We're under house arrest to find a cure. He does go on and say, I understand what's going on. We have to be safe. But even he, a guy you would think could go anywhere he wants and actually was out of the country when this pandemic started in Peru, I think.
He had a tough time getting back, I think, right?
He had a hard time getting back from Peru with his girlfriend, and now he's sitting there saying, hey, I feel like I'm under house arrest until we find a cure. And a lot of people feel that way. But if you say that nowadays, you're on somebody's list, and then you're now another nutcase.
Yeah, I mean, people politicize everything. And my favorite people are the people that say politicians don't politicize things. I mean, that's the dumbest thing you could ever say. So
that's all they live for. That's their job.
Exactly. That's their exact. But you have it. You say it's not about politics. But we see the dichotomy between so-called red states and blue states. Bottom line is people are getting frustrated. And when you talk about professional athletes in general, I mean, these are not the people in danger. It generally affects the elderly, obviously, the immune deficient. These guys are generally in shape. These are the highest level of athletes. Nobody wants to get sick. But the likelihood of you opening up a season, it's not just the NFL season, the NBA coming back, Major League Baseball. Yeah, guys are going to get sick, but look, you have to weigh it. You have to be pragmatic. I mean, there isn't going to be a cure. This is a virus. the best you can hope for is a vaccine that you get every year or something of that nature. So we're going to have to move forward at some point, and I think a lot of people and high-profile people like Aaron Rodgers are starting to speak out. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's not, because, everybody has a right to say how they feel. Sadly, that's not the case anymore in this country, in this really divided country, which is idiotic. But we got to get to Doug Peterson. I like Doug Peterson, but what he said today, and you were there as part of that
it's a virtual thing, right?
Zoom. How many people were on the Zoom session with you today?
55.
Oh, my God.
55 people?
55.
We don't have 55 media people in this city.
Yeah, we do. When the Eagles are up, we do.
How do they
55.
How do they go in order? Like, does everybody just start talking at once to ask a question? How do they do that?
No. Yeah. What happens on Zoom is there is a raise your hand function.
Oh.
So you have to raise your hand. So basically, we all get there 10 minutes early. We're let into the room, and we raise our hands. And then they go in order. I was number 12 today. 12 of 12. 12 people got to ask questions. I was 12 of the 55.
Do they know who you are, John? Do they realize that your recent promotions to the higher echelon of this kind of sports media?
It's pretty
That's
low.
the only reason I get in the questions.
Were there guys with, basement blogs who have, five people listening to them, asking questions?
It's all the Philly Inquirer. It's all those types of people. And, yeah, it's tough to get into an Eagles Zoom press conference because they got about 25, 30 minutes and 55 people. You do the math.
So 55 people are in there, but only 12 get to ask questions.
Yes.
But you're in your own home, so not everybody's everybody's in their own house, and they get on this Zoom session. And are all 55 heads in boxes like some of the ESPN shows that are on now?
You can do that, yeah. You can put everybody in your screen. Now, some people don't put on their video for whatever. They don't like their Zoom backgrounds, I guess. So some people just have their audio on.
Anybody
it's
shirtless?
Yeah, anybody not wearing shirts or pants?
Not yet, but, there was a conference, Carl, earlier this season where somebody forgot to have their mute on. And it was Rodney McLeod, the Eagles safety, and somebody let an F-bomb fly in their house. They were yelling at
shut it
somebody in
down.
their house.
We got to shut this down. We can't have this anymore.
Jeez,
And
rest
by
that
the
guy.
way, Rodney was a professional. He just kept going like nothing happened.
That's professionalism is right. All right, John, so Doug Peterson was asked about a lot of things, and he says the pandemic forces veteran-laden teams early to – so, he's saying that Nate Sudfeld, he expects to be the backup quarterback, a guy that's been here, 4 years now, and pretty much doesn't see any time. And obviously they drafted the quarterback, Jalen Hurts. So he's saying early on, if they get back, that you're going to see just all the veteran guys, and he's not going to put some of the draft picks in because they're not familiar with the system, as are veterans like Nate Sudfeld. Now, that's understandable, and I think we can buy that. Is anybody questioning that?
Yeah, I don't think so. I've been talking about that really since the draft, and I've been telling fans all across the league to slow their roll if they think rookies are going to have a immediate impact on their particular favorite teams. There is no, Doug called it grass time today. There is none. And to expect guys to ramp up, even if we get to training camp, best case scenario, late July, early August, that's it. That's all the time the rookies have. So to expect them to hit the ground running week one, I think it's kind of pie in the sky. I think people are being unrealistic. Now, there'll be exceptions. There are players so talented that they can just go out there and dominate on their physical ability alone. Chase Young, I think, has got a chance to be a superstar in this league, and he's just better than people athletically. So there'll be a few, but if you're expecting significant rookie impact across this league, I don't think it's going to happen, at least early in the season. Maybe the second half if we end up playing 16 games.
What did he say about the offense, about how it may not look different this year?
Yeah, he said there's not going to be, to the naked eye, drastic changes. And That doesn't surprise me either. I mean, this is a team, think about it, guys, with Greg Ward, Boston Scott, Josh Perkins, practice squad, everybody talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
They were top 5 in third down offense and red zone offense. And that's what Doug has always preached, is situational football. So they're top 5 with these players.
Mm-hmm.
How much better do you get? Now, if you look at week 1, when Deshaun Jackson was healthy, the offense looked different because he had that speed on the field and they could do some different things. But from a schematic standpoint, it was the same. So I think any changes you're going to see are related to talent. It's going to be the Doug Peterson West Coast with spread concepts offense that he learned from Andy Reid. That's what he believes in. That's what he's going to do.
Now, John, one of the things that he did, and all coaches do this, and Doug's not a guy who's going to say controversial things. He's not going to get people all upset. But the people get upset when he says things that we know he's going to say. For example, he was asked about Jason Peters, who's still sitting out there waiting for somebody to make him an offer. And he gave the typical, I have a lot of respect for what he's accomplished in his career, but Andre Dillard was the player we drafted to be the left tackle for us. He's taken command, and he's seen his confidence res a lot. Well, what's he supposed to say? We really have no interest in Jason Peters until the end when he comes groveling back, looking for a job, and we'll throw him a couple of bucks to be a backup. He's not going to say that, but isn't that basically what they're doing with Jason Peters?
Yeah, I mean, I think the plan is to get to training camp to see where Andre Dillard was. You're contradicting yourself from Doug's standpoint. You're saying, look, the rookies, the younger players, we haven't gotten a chance to look at them because of the virtual offseason. And then you're saying Andre Dillard has taken command. Well, how could he take command? He's not doing anything. So the hope is, they traded up for him in the first round. So they obviously want him to be the starting left tackle. But if he shows up in August and looks terrible, I think the hope is Jason is still sitting by the phone because there's no question he wants to play here, and this is his preference. But I think the Eagles want to get younger for a lot of different reasons, mainly because Carson Wentz's contract is really going to kick in next season, and they want to go the more cost-effective route. So that means younger players on their rookie deals. They want Andre Dillard to be the starter, but if he can't do it, what Doug said about that veteran-laden season, then you call up Jason Peters and say, we need you, big guy.
John, did you ever get food poisoning from a pizza delivery?
Not from a pizza delivery.
No?
I got a great Boston market story, though.
You do?
Well, if it's food poisoning, I don't think it's a great Boston market story.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
It's not going to. So we'll X that out. Can we edit that out?
Yes,
I don't want to say the name of the restaurant.
Oh, it's too late, John.
Oh, damn.
It's
but
too
the
late.
good part, the good part of is I loved it so much that I got it one day. I got sick. I felt horrible. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. And my wife had the leftovers in the fridge, and I went right back to him the next day and got sick again.
Was
Not
it
my best moment.
Was it the creamed spinach?
No.
No?
I didn't know.
I used to love that cream.
Did you identify
awesome.
identify the tainted product?
I never did identify the tainted product.
Wait, so you and Michael Jordan did the same thing. You trusted somebody to give you food. You got sick and you went back the next day.
Yes.
He was hungry.
Did 5 guys serve you the dinner when you were sitting there, and did you take it out, or did you eat it there?
My issue was I was just too dumb to figure out the issue. I just assumed, hey, I didn't feel well, and I'm feeling better now, so I'll just go back to the well.
Wow, that's a real. You're either a real man or you're really dumb, John. I'm trying to get it. There's no in between. There's no in between on that one.
Wait.
That was many, many years ago. I've learned from it. I wouldn't do that today. So that's what you do. You learn from your mistakes.
But wait a minute. You eat press box food all over the National Football League.
All right. I don't learn from my mistakes. What do you want from me?
I was going to say, since I did not get one yet today, can we give one to John?
No, he admitted something. He admitted a mistake.
Yes.
You don't get one for admitting a mistake. You get one when you make a mistake and you don't acknowledge it, and then you have to be ripped. That's how we treat everyone.
About it, Robin. You got to be self-deprecating. You got to admit it right up. Just admit the mistake.
Exactly right. You know how it works. How can Robin, who's been with me 11 years, not know how it works when this is how it's always worked on this show? You know what I mean?
That's a bad job by you, Robbie.
I
You should
know.
get one.
Oh,
I
man.
Wow.
Way
John-
to turn it around, John.
Good work.
That is good work out of him.
That was actually kind of impressive, I have to say.
John, anything else that we're missing in the NFL today? Because we covered pretty much everything. I mean, all these teams are having these virtual Zoom things, and there's really not much news gleaned from it. But here in Philly, of course, when the coach speaks or anybody speaks, it becomes a week-long, let's go to the phones,
well, yeah.
let's go to the phones and bang this story to death for the rest of the week.
Well, John, were you a big Phyllis George fan back in the day?
I was a
Passed away
big Phyllis
yesterday,
George
yeah?
fan. I was a big NFL Today fan.
Yeah,
the
me too.
entire group.
Who was it?
You were looking live from Brett Musburger, Irv Cross, Phyllis George, give me the Greek. That was the reason I think a lot of us developed a love for the NFL. Now today I won't watch a pregame show. I have no interest.
Really?
And I love that pregame show.
No, it was must-watch. But now remember, we didn't have internet. We didn't have all
Right.
that stuff.
Yeah.
So that was the
A lot
go-to
different.
show. The interviews were go-to. And then back then, when Brett Musburger says, you are looking live, and they'd show live shots like they still do today
Right.
of different stadiums. They get reports. But now, you're right, there's so much of it, and they go on for like they start 4 hours before kickoff because they got to raise advertising to get all this, it costs so much for the rights fees that as much as good as some of them are, I don't watch them. I turn the damn TV on
Yeah,
at
it's
kickoff.
tough. A lot of times less is more. I think if you
Yep.
go back, Mel Allen's This Week in Baseball used to love it.
That was
Now
great.
Now I can't watch a highlight show to save my life. Monday Night Football halftime highlights, that was great. Everybody would wait for that. Can you imagine that today?
Oh, I know.
You got the highlights in YouTube 10 seconds later.
Yeah, and that's, and again, that we're sounding like boomers here. But the
Well,
bottom
we
line-
are.
We are boomers.
Yeah.
Are we okay boomers, though? That's what
Okay,
I don't want to know.
Okay. Okay, Boomer. Let's
Not the
get that
boom-
on the Twitch. Let's get that trending on the Twitch. Okay,
Okay.
Boomer.
I think OK Boomer has jumped the shark by now, hasn't it? So has Jumped the
Well,
Shark,
it
by the way.
should.
John, I just want to get your take on one other thing. Are we all in this together? Because, I've been thinking about this a lot, and everybody says it. And, again, not to be offensive to anybody, but we're not all in this together.
No, we're not all in it together. Most of you have no idea what you're doing, and you should listen to people like me and Tony and
Exactly.
Harry and Robin.
Exactly right. I mean, we worry about science, and then the scientists have been wrong from Jump Street on this thing. And I'm going to keep listening to them, and I'm going to make a list of all the mistakes that they've made to try to tell us what we should do with our lives.
Yeah, it's okay to engage in some critical thinking. You don't have to follow.
Exactly.
All the
You're
time.
absolutely right. That's what it's about. Everybody feels that they have to take a side. And I got to
Yeah.
blame Harry's buddy out there in San Diego, who's
Oh,
forced this take a
Scott
side
Kaplan.
issue. Scott Kaplan sided.
Yeah.
Why does everybody have to take a side? We can disagree.
He is not allowing people to come together. He wants you to split up and take a
That's
side.
a good point.
You
That's
know,
a good
like
point,
if you're a
Simon.
degenerate gambler, sometimes you got to go to the middle. You got
Yeah.
to take the middle, and then you look at the both sides, and then you go to the one side, or you can middle it, and then go back the other way, from the back to the middle to the back
That's
again.
why I am divesting myself of the Republican Party, the Democrat Party. I'm starting the pragmatic party.
I like it.
I need Tony Bruno because I need that. I need that big name to
Yeah.
get it going.
I agree. Everybody thinks I'm a Republican because I don't agree with all this Trump stuff 24/7. I just listen. I
Well,
mock
if you
Trump.
don't agree with their side, you're the other side.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
I'm not on any side. I despise every political party, every
People
single
can't
one of them.
even fathom independent thinkers.
No,
they can't
no.
even fathom it.
No.
It's exactly like sports fans, like Cowboys fans versus Eagles fans,
Exactly.
Bears fans versus Packers fans,
John, did you
Raiders fans versus Broncos.
Did you
fans.
see this? I just we talked about this briefly in the first segment. The NFL's testing an N95 surgical mask material on modified face mask. Did you see anything about this?
Yeah. They're gonna they're trying to develop this mask for the players when they come back. Yeah, which is a good thing. I mean, it's pretty clear that when things do ramp up, and they are, I think training camps are going to open, if not when they're supposed to, a week or two after, and unless something drastic changes between now and then. But there's going to be a bunch of safety protocols put in place, and one of them is going to be wearing masks, and the players are going to be around the facility in those masks. It's a new normal, as Doug Peterson might say.
There's no such thing as a new normal.
That's true.
It's just new.
What's the new Radical song called? Remember that big hit that you only get what you give, or something like that? You only get what you give.
Something Radicals.
It's the new Radicals.
New Radicals.
Not free radicals. That's something that you take when you take a couple of pills.
That's a good point by Harry, though. New normal, no such thing.
Yeah.
If it's normal, it's not new.
It's just new.
Yeah.
There you have it. You're not getting this kind of breakdown
No.
anywhere else on the radio band, on the
Just
satellite.
here.
Just here, ladies and gentlemen.
And SB Nation, later.
Exactly right. John McMullen. John, good to talk to you, brother. We'll see you soon.
All right, thanks, guys.
See you, John. Yeah, the new Radicals, you get what you give. That's not a bad
You
song.
only get no. It's a great song.
Yeah.
It's well produced. That was probably that was their biggest hit. They did a
Yeah.
couple of other songs, but that was a monster hit song.
He broke the band up because of the hit.
They broke the band up.
He didn't like all the attention, so he stopped doing it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's an outrage.
What a goof.